Hello, beautiful sacred souls. Today we are going to explore trauma, healing, and spiritual insight around why healing is essential to discernment. I want to talk about something I've been reflecting on deeply, why spiritual insight is always filtered through the level of healing and existing beliefs that we have, and why understanding this is essential for anyone on a path of awakening. Many of us have noticed spiritual teachings that feel inspiring, but also can elicit feelings of confusion or shame, or can even be downright harmful. And I want to talk about why this happens and how we can embrace spiritual growth without adding shame or self-blame. So here's the truth. A spiritual insight passes through the human vessel. It passes through our brain, our body, our nervous system, and our past experiences and existing belief systems. So even channeled messages or energy healing and sacred teachings and mystical revelations are filtered through the consciousness and trauma patterns of the individual receiving or transmitting those messages. So what does that mean? This means that unhealed wounds can distort the message. Trauma can create interpretation of spiritual teachings that feel shame-based or impossible for individual nervous systems that have been shaped by patterns of trauma. And it is important to also note that nervous system patterns do shape what we can actually embody. So it's not that spiritual messages are wrong. It's that human nervous systems are not always ready to fully receive or integrate the energy or the messages or the wisdom that's coming through. So let's explore this from a trauma-informed perspective, specifically how trauma and beliefs can filter spiritual information. So childhood experiences and even adult experiences can teach the nervous system to prioritize protection over connection. This affects our ability to trust our intuition, our heart, and what I call our inner compass, which is our healed state or our divine essence or our soul. So when spiritual guidance asks us to align or flow or manifest, a traumatized system may interpret it as, I'm failing. Trauma doesn't make us broken, it makes us survivors. So healing is essential to discern truth from distortion in spiritual teachings. And this is also important for those of you out there that are in a position of being spiritual mentors or energy workers, that your level of healing also affects how clearly your discernment is and how cleanly you are able to give those messages to your clients. So what many spiritual teachings miss, even messages from spirit, such as angels or councils in the spirit realm or mystical sources or even God consciousness, passes through the human vessel. It passes through the brain, the nervous system, beliefs, language. So even those of us that are channelers, such as myself, even when we allow these energies to use our body to share these messages, it still gets filtered through the level of healing that we are. So the words that we end up speaking are filtered through our existing healing. We're still interpreting the energy that they are putting through us. And this is why often we see teachings that don't account for nervous system regulation, or they suggest spiritual bypassing, or just think higher thoughts, or only love and light. These imply shame for not being aligned, and they're not wrong. They are well-meaning teachings. However, they can unintentionally create guilt, fear, self-blame if the receiver's nervous system isn't regulated, if there's trauma. So healing as the key to discernment. Here is something that has been a game changer for me in my work with clients. Healing my own nervous system and continuing to recognize that I am a filter and that my messages might not always be clear allows me to discern spiritual truth more clearly. So as my body and mind feel safe, my inner compass or my heart guidance does become more trustworthy. However, I recognize that I need to distinguish between healthy guidance and distorted patterns so that my spiritual insight becomes embodied, not just intellectual. And that is why I ask and teach clients to tap into their own connection to this energy to hear if what I speak feels true in their own system. This allows agency for the other individual and recognizes that, and I name this with my clients, what I'm receiving is being filtered through my understanding and my perception and my nervous system and my belief systems, so it might not be accurate. However, does this feel true for you? Does it resonate in your body? And if it doesn't, what feels like truth for you? And this is why I wrote my book, The Divine Within, Healing Ourselves to Heal the World. We all hold wounds, and unhealthy messages are present in spiritual teachings. Healing ourselves is how we develop discernment and access alignment safely. Healing is not separate from spirituality. It is actually the foundation of true spiritual insight. Spirituality as co-creation. Spiritually aligned insight is not just transmitted to us. It is co-created through our nervous system, our presence, and our embodiment. This is why we sometimes see the same messages differently from different teachers. One person may interpret a teaching as inspiring. Another may interpret the same teaching as shaming or confusing. The difference is the readiness of the vessel, the level of healing that the vessel has done. And as we continue healing, our capacity to receive, integrate, and embody wisdom grows. We are never at a finished state. We are constantly evolving. We are constantly holding multiple vibrations simultaneously. And as we continue to do our healing work with our nervous system and our belief systems, we can tap into higher vibrations. However, the lower vibrations still remain present because we are the totality of all. We hold, from a quantum physics perspective, all realities simultaneously. And as we begin to heal, we can hold more healed realities while also honoring the unhealed. If you've ever felt like spiritual teachings made you feel broken or behind or not evolved enough, here is what I would like you to hear and feel in your body. There is nothing wrong with you. Your nervous system adapted brilliantly to survive. Healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you are and who you were before survival took over. As safety, compassion, and regulation are restored, spiritual insight becomes embodied and discernible, not confusing or shaming. And if this teaching resonates, you can find my book, The Divine Within, Healing Ourselves to Heal the World, on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Powell's Books, and Walmart. And you can explore my website for resources, journaling tools, and guided practices, www.blossomingheartwellness.com. And if this video helped, please like, subscribe, share, comment, so more people can bring trauma-informed awareness to their spiritual path. Thank you for showing up for healing, for your discernment, and co-creating spirituality from a place of embodied wisdom. You can